The sex revolution was a crucial part of women's rights in America. Without it, women would not be where they are today in society. Before the revolution, women were oppressed in politics and in the workplace. It was socially acceptable for single men to be able to have sex freely, but women were shunned and slut-shamed for doing the same thing. This was to change as women started to challenge the oppressive ways of society. One woman who was very important in this was Margaret Sanger. Sanger was a strong women's rights activist who founded the birth control movement. Sanger started in 1914 when her own feminist publication, The Woman Rebel, came out. In this, she advocated for birth control. Sanger's next mission was to find a team of people who would help her develop contraceptives. She teamed up with Catherine McCormick, who is another women's rights activist, and she mainly helps with funding. A biologist who graduated from Cornell named Gregory Pincus also agreed to work with them. Only after a few months, Pincus and his colleague Min-Chao Chang proved that repeated injections of progesterone stopped ovulation in animals. And after this revelation, they just needed to figure out how to put this drug into a pill. So finally, after years of hard work and various trials, the FDA finally approved the drug Envoid in 1960. Before the drug was officially approved, they did have to do some clinical trials, which were conducted by John Rock. And Rock was a gynecologist with a private practice, but also a Roman Catholic who advocated for birth control. Rock decided to conduct his trials in Puerto Rico because there's no laws against contraceptives, and there was a stable population to fulfill the trials. The social impacts of birth control were tremendous. In 1965, Estelle Griswold, the head of Planned Parenthood in Connecticut, and C. Lee Buxton, a gynecologist at the Yale School of Medicine, opened a birth control clinic in New Haven. They were arrested and planned to use their clinic to challenge the Constitution. The case did go to the Supreme Court, and it was eventually ruled in a 7-2 decision that the law set in place in 1879, stating that the use of contraceptives was illegal, was in fact unconstitutional. This was huge for many states that still had laws in place. How have you been affected by the double standard that's put on women's sexuality?
Well, certainly growing up, especially going through puberty, with parents that were born in the 50s, I had a lot of outdated ideas about what I should or should not be doing as a teenage girl developing into a woman. So then when I did experiment some, it, added some feelings of guilt and, almost breaking rules.
So, how would you say that birth control has positively affected your life?
Well, my first daughter was an unplanned pregnancy, and that definitely changed the trajectory of my life from what I had planned at that time. Not negatively, but it was just different. So after she was born, then I did get on the pill, and it was really nice to have that peace of mind knowing that I was going to be in charge of when I could be pregnant again. And then I also used other forms of birth control after my second daughter was born again, so I could be in charge of when I was going to be pregnant.
Thank you, Erin. And just to conclude, women would not be where we are today, and we would not have the voice and expression that we are openly provided with if it weren't thanks to Margaret Sanger, Catherine McCormick, Gregory Pincus, and John Rock, who were the pioneers in reinventing sex and launched a revolution that has changed the world for the better.